The bakery. The bakery? Was that a... Lotum. I think that's how you pronounce it. I just tried to look it up, but I'm so sorry otherwise. Welcome to our weekly Let's Try series where I check out another furry visual novel every week. And sometimes just other stuff, but oftentimes this. Look, it's good to have an identity. There's a billion channels that just try whatever indie games in their inbox every day, but I think maybe 0 channels besides me that do this specifically every week, so yeah. This is a work of fiction. All names, characters, businesses, places, events, and incidents are products of the author's imagination, or you know what it probably said otherwise. Chapter 1. Le premier... I'm sorry. French is really hard. It's a small plane. I think my dad used to call them puddle jumpers. The boar next to me has slept the entire flight, his solid frame pressing me against the wall of the plane. I reach up and brush the hair away from my eyes and settle my forehead against the cool window. It's dark out. Lights are scattered across the land below in an intricate pattern. That was a really cool fade-in. Actually, just a very nice little scene. Night. The intercom crackles. Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into Alder Falls. Please turn off and stow all electronic devices. At this time, we ask for all seat backs to be returned to their full and upright position. Please secure any carry-on items and stow your tray table as we prepare for landing. Seat backs. Huh. There's a particular... Oh, are they alone on here? Or are we just not drawing any? Well, we know there's a boar next to them, yeah. There's a grunt followed by a snore as the boar shifts in his seat, either feigning sleep or missing the announcement entirely. Only when the steward strolls through the aisle and shakes the gentleman awake does he follow directions. After, he has a scowl on his face. These planes are small, so it must be uncomfortable for him. I continue to gaze out the... Ooh, it's getting brighter. Ooh, I like the transitions. I continue to gaze out the window, tugging at the collar of my jacket to help with the airflow. My eyes wander back and forth across the changing landscape, picking out the river and town, the river the town is named after, along with the hard-top dome of the local college. My ears pop during the descent, and I swallow hard to equalize the pressure. Ooh. Those are fun transitions. Oh, look at the use of the floating symbols on the right, too, akin to what was happening before on the other side. Is this a one-side plane? Is there, like, 2 rows of seat on one side, and then, like, just empty space and luggage on the right or something? I wonder, like, the aisle? It'd be a very small plane. I've only recently been on planes where, instead of having 2 aisles on each side, or even more, or usually it's 3 seats in each side or something, or the huge ocean-spanning ones have like a fucking middle row, so you have like 2 seats on each side, then 3 in the middle or something for a whole third extra bit. But I was recently on ones that were very short flights where it's like 2 seats on one side, 1 on the other, and then seemingly to equalize the weight or something, the open aisle shifts slightly from the left to the right, halfway down the plane, and the number of seats on each side switches. It's a very strange. It was just, I had never seen that for just decades of being on planes. Tires give the faintest squeak as rubber hits the tarmac and the plane shakes when all wheels finally touch down. When I was younger, 3 different airlines serviced the local airport, but we no longer have the luxury of options when flying into Alder Falls. It's only American Airlines now. 2 flights a day, 1 in the morning and 1 coming in ungodly late at night. As there's no other traffic to fight, it only takes a few minutes to taxi to the gate. The seatbelt sign dims, and all around me, people are hurrying to their feet and popping the overhead bins. I just wait. Breathing becomes a little easier as the boar steps into the aisle, finally giving me room to relax. The bunny couple across the way looks annoyed with his girth. They look over at me, and, assuming to find camaraderie, roll their eyes. I just wait. When the plane is almost empty, I reach down and pull a bursting backpack from beneath the seat in front of me. As I stand, I realize just how hot the plane is. I'm damp. I'm uncomfortable. I feel my duffel free. I pull my duffel free from the overhead bin and sling it in front of me so that I can fit down the narrow aisle. As I exit the plane, the steward flashes me a very feline smile, the same that's appeared any time I've glanced his way during the flight. Seeing a bobcat, I'm immediately like, fully processing the idea of airline travel with furries, and like the amount of hair that has to be on this plane, and how like distinctly frustrating it must be to clean. And now I'm thinking about real life planes. Like, we have some hair and other stuff. Like, you do need to clean the plane. It's got to be a pain in the ass to vacuum these things with all the sheer number of seats and everything. But I'm thinking about like the idea of like all the recycled air and having like dandruff and furry hair mixed in everywhere, all the fur, and then the idea that like when they vacuum this thing, it might fill multiple times. Like after a day or a week or however frequently you clean these things out, you like might fill the entire vacuum and need to like replace the bag and so on, and like what a nightmare. Enjoy your stay at Alder Falls. He may be flirting, but it's late, it's hot, and I just want to go to bed, so all I can do is mumble in return. Thanks. Are we a squirrel? The jet bridge is cool, refreshingly so, and a sense of relief hits me as I pass the terminal. That's fun, doing a little... It's not exactly a dolly zoom, but it's like an attempt at a version of that. No, wait, no, it's a dolly zoom... No, a dolly zoom's for that one fucked up thing where you like back the camera away or move it closer, and then you're also reverse zooming so that the world seems to move around them. I meant the other thing. I meant it just looks like a zoom. Let's not be too technical here. The jet bridge is cool, refreshingly so, and a sense of relief hits me as I pass the terminal. My eyes squint at the harsh fluorescent light. It's a big change from the plane. I don't have to look long, though. The only other squirrel is in the small waiting area stands, her lips pulling into a wide smile as she sees me and makes her way over. Hi, Ma. They're squirrels. Look at their tails. You never see squirrels, really. It comes out quiet as I drop the duffel to my side. The hesitance, ache, and happiness I'm feeling are present as I curl my arms around her for a ferocious hug. Oh, it's so good to see you. I can tell she's trying to hold back her emotions. The hug alone is proof of that. When it finally breaks, she places both hands on my shoulders, an eyebrow raising as her tail flicks behind her. Checked luggage? I tap the duffel bag with my foot and shrug. Just this. Though it's more than the last time I was home, she glances between the bag on the floor and the bag on my back. You always did travel light. She goes to pick up the duffel bag and I object. It's alright, I got it. At about that time I realize my brothers aren't there. Caleb and Evan at home? There's a rich chuckle before she answers. Dear, it's after 11 and a school night. I'm sure they're long asleep by now. I give a mischievous grin. I don't know. When I was 16, this was about the perfect time to get up to trouble. Her fingers prod my chest. When you were 16, your father was around to help keep you in line. That stings a little, so I carry on smiling and heft my shoulders in a shrug. I grab my second bag and flick my head towards the exit. Without another word, we step onto the crisp autumn air. She's parked a little ways down the loading zone. One of the nice things about a small airport is they don't really bother with ticketing and towing. She's also friends with a few of the folks who work for American here, so that helps. I toss my bags into the back of her station wagon, then climb into the front seat, making sure to pull my tail to the side so as not to sit on it. This is beautiful art. A lot of it up front, too. Like, full backgrounds. Was that one background a moment? Like, for all I know, we never see that background again. Like this one from a second ago. It was for, like, 2 lines of dialogue. That's a heavy commitment. I like the use of textures, though. The way they simulate light by having the screen tones over the middle of their... You can see the same patterns on the periphery along the bottom too. That seem to be... Is it the screen tones there? And then there's also the stamps, I guess I'll call them. The little circles of lines and then the stars and this kind of snowflakes. They're probably either a self-made like brush that you can drag across that spews them everywhere, or they're placed individually, but they're probably not drawn individually. They're probably something that you can keep like tapping at to place everywhere. She starts the car and turns my way. Just want to let it get a little, just want to let it warm up a little. It's getting pretty old. I nod in return. Kinda like us. There's a quiet sigh before she responds even quieter. Yes. She pulls away from the curb and begins the quick drive back home. I haven't been back in 3 years, not since my father passed. She keeps looking forward, but she finally says, I know it's late. I know you probably don't want to talk about it right now. Her voice cracks slightly. But I just want you to know that I'm sorry about what happened with your job. And your partner. My eyes burn. I can't tell if it's the dry air from the plane or if I'm trying to convince myself that because I can feel tears welling up. Thanks, Ma. I rub my nose against the back of my hand, then reach up to rub my eyes with thumb and forefinger. The rest of the ride is pretty quiet, which helps me calm down and just think about bed. She pulls up and parks. I look out the window at the house I grew up in. You paint it? Yeah, it's green now. It's nice. We undo our seatbelts and step out into the cool night air. I gather my bags and follow her up and into the house. She glances over her shoulder. I've gone ahead and changed the sheets on your bed. You know where the towels are, if you want to take a shower tonight, that is. I give a warm smile, toeing off my shoes. I'd just like to go to bed. She gives me another hug and kisses my cheek before pulling back. Go do that. Sleep well. Now I'm thinking about the mechanics of sleeping in a bed when you have a squirrel tail. It's like, I've never thought about this more for a species, I think. With specifically how odd a squirrel tail kind of is. It mostly otherwise comes up when I think about horns. I think about how like some people draw their characters with like giant ass horns that kind of go curl behind their head. So I'm like, how do they put their head down to sleep? Do they have neck problems? And then if they have the points pointing in specific directions, I'm like, how do you pillow? I was very amused when Dorohedoro, the anime, had Kaiman, the main character who's a lizard covered in spikes. Every time he sits up from bed, his pillow is stuck to his head from all the spikes. And it had to happen several times in the first season of the anime already. It's like, yes, exactly. I've been thinking about this all the time. It's like these poor dragons and goats and ram personas. How do they survive bed? I speak as quietly as I can upstairs. I sneak as quietly as I can upstairs into my old room. Deja vu sets in hard as I look around. Aside from the few belongings I took when I graduated from college, everything is still the same. This is surreal to me. It might have just been like a unsentimental family or something, but I did not have a room to return to. The moment I moved out, my room was gone. Immediately converted into an office. It's just a square That's the only nostalgia, is the shape of that the square is. But like this, so many stories are about people returning home after years, and everything is like how they left it, and full of reminders of who they were back then, of whatever they didn't take with them. And I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, it's cute that the mom preserves that stuff. It's like the think about like, what's it called? Was it What Remains of Edith Finch? Was that the one where they preserve the room of every member of the family when they die and so on? Or was it called something? There's a lot of that was an era of indie games that blurs a little bit. I mean, I remember it, just the titles are hard. But yeah, completely. It comes up so much in stories that I'm like, is it actually statistically common to do this? Or are you like, no, we got a whole room here that we got to figure out what to do with, at least convert it into like a guest bed and whatnot? Or is it like, how many moms are shrining their kids like this so that when they come home once a year or so on, they still have their same bedroom and whatnot? Do not know. I set both bags at the foot of the dresser, then look at the collected toys and trinkets scattered across the wood surface. I can tell that the room has been cleaned recently. My shoulders shrug as I work off my leather jacket. It's tossed into the nearby armchair. I peel the shirt I'm wearing off my body and undo my pants. Both are abandoned on the floor, and with the zip, I retrieve my phone charger from a pocket on the side of my backpack. Heavy feet guide me to the bed. My fingers curl beneath comforter, blanket, and sheet, drawing them back before I take a seat on the edge of the bed. My tail curls tight behind me as I lean down and take off my socks. Toes splay, and then I shift, pulling the surge protector from beneath the bed and plugging my phone into the charge. Think about how much muscle memory there must be tied to having a tail in these situations. Like, with that bulky of a tail, you're consciously, or at this point unconsciously at this age, but like every single time you do certain actions involving like sitting or changing or anything, there's always like specific ways you would move your tail at all times, just to like both counterbalance your movements and also not like sit on your tail or get stuff stuck on your tail when you're doing things. Is this a belt? Is this a tail loop universe, or is this a like just string your tail between your shirt and your pants universe? That's always back and forth. Let's see. I click the home button and swipe up to bring the device out of airplane mode. I wait a moment, seeing if I have any new messages before climbing into the pile of blankets and rolling out of my stomach. This person is remarkably unplugged if they didn't immediately leave airplane mode on the tarmac. When you're, especially with how you get stuck sitting, getting off your plane for like half an hour. Like, the first thing you do is like, oh my god, I've been stuck on this plane for hours, and I'm uncomfortable, and everything sucks, and I miss any kind of stimulation from looking at anything else that isn't this room and this shitty plane with this air and these neighbors that it's like kind of rude to talk to, and I don't know if I'd like them anyway. All this stuff, it's like, you're like, internet, please, just give me the outside world to get me through both the fact that I've been deprived of it for hours, but also specifically am now just going to be awkwardly waiting for everyone to get up and get off this plane in front of me. So making it all the way home before switching off airplane mode, impressive. Even though it's been years, the bed still smells like me. Well, a younger me. My right arm tucks under the pillow and sleep follows quickly. Damn. Not a lot of messages to keep up on. Colors. Seeing the sun come up outside, like, that's a really good color palette, actually. It seems like only a moment has passed, but bright morning light has come to rest on my face, drawing me from slumber reluctantly. I smack my lips, mouth feeling tacky and dry, and want nothing more than a cup of coffee. Climbing out of bed reveals how stiff I am, and I gingerly approach the door, peeking out before I descend the stairs and head to the kitchen. My tail is still waking up. It gives a few slow shakes behind me as I go through the motions of making a pot of coffee. Still the same drip machine, so being half asleep isn't a problem. Filter, coffee, tap water, start. As the machine comes to life, I open the cabinet above and pull down a small white coffee mug. Time seems to crawl, but eventually the machine comes to a stop with a gurgle. I pick up the pot of coffee, pour slowly, then return it to the warming plate. It got brighter, right? It did. I'm not crazy. There's so many subtle, brightness transitions happening here and there with the color. Or with the coffee, the scene itself is waking up. It's a very heavily directed game so far. Just an insane amount of art back to back, but also like a lot of conscious choices about how to present it very frequently. I collect the mug with both hands, warming them before heading back up to my room. Floorboards creak along the way, my ears twitching as I start to hear the faint noises of stirring bodies. I find this stuff interesting because it's such a rapidly evolving little micro-niche fandom genre that's kind of self-perpetuating, and such a significant percentage of it essentially exists because of Ad Astra and Echo, just because like a lot of it's directly inspired by those games only a few years ago, and the ones that aren't are just kind of brought along by the tidal wave of all the games that were kind of like further brought along by that. Like we have other vestiges, like we have Nekojishi and we have stuff like Four Letter Word that like predates that stuff, but a lot of it didn't like catch on the same way. So like the reason why there's so many of these is essentially because of those games really taking off and increasing people's interest in this stuff, even if they don't directly play them. But like we do come from a we are coming from a past where there was just so little art moment by comparison. Like still a mountain. Like you open up the folders of those games, there's so much art inside. But the reality of playing a game like Echo is it's a lot of photos with filters and then mostly just character sprites. Very rare CGs. You read like a book's worth of route, and that route has like 2 or 3 CGs total. Ad Astra had both more and less. They went for the crafted backgrounds. They ended up with like a very restrained number of locations. They wrote the story around having few locations so they could have fewer backgrounds and fewer characters and have a tight economy on what they had to draw and so on. And a lot of games follow those templates because it's reasonable, either budget-wise or time-wise, because you're either doing all the work yourself, which is insane, or you are hiring an artist, which means it's very expensive, or in some cases just have a small enthusiast team of people who are just excited about it and people who are willing to just like draw for quote-unquote free because they're just into the project and everyone's just making it for fun and maybe splitting the profits between everyone if there's any kind of Patreon or itch.io support. But either way, it's just like either a mountain of work or a mountain of budget. So it usually doesn't make sense to have a ton of art. So it can be very startling when some games will be like, here's 1 billion backgrounds. In particular, like a game jam game sometimes will have more art than a finished visual novel from only a few years before it. And you're like, what the fuck? These people are machines. I just caught up with the subtle transparency of the blinds. The glare of the window frame is visible through the edges of the blinds, then fades away at a semi-transparent look. That's wild. I shut my door and then reach down to lock it. It's a few steps to the windows, and I draw back the curtains, take a good look out at my street for the first time since I arrived last night. Yes, my street. The curtains fall back into place with a soft thump, and I finally set them free. I curl my free hand once more around the coffee mug and lift it to my lips, pursing to blow across the surface of my drink. The muffled sound of laughter brings a lopsided smile to my face. I think that's Evan. I'll have to ask what was so funny later. I breathe deeply, enjoying the rich, almost metallic smell of the coffee. The ceramic is hot against my lips, drawing a throaty grunt from me as I take my first drink. It's just after 7 in the morning, and based on my look outside, the weather cooled off enough overnight for frost to stick. As quickly as I savor the first sip of coffee, the mug is abandoned at my bedside table. Reaching down to the charging station, partially hidden under the bed, I retrieve my phone. With an over-exaggerated stretch, my body falls back, hitting the mattress with yet another soft thump. At 32, I wasn't expecting to be living at home, yet here I am. Knuckles wander. 32. That's a... yeah. This childhood bedroom has been preserved for a while then. Knuckles wander across my chest, scratching, as I yawn and wriggle back till I'm half under the comforter again. If I could just sleep till spring. I mumble while thumbing the code to unlock my phone. Then again, I'm not a bear. Do bears do that in this universe? Is that what we're establishing? My lips pull into a buck-toothed smile at my silly joke, and I flick the screen a few times and open one of my favorite apps, Rougher. Hello. Uh-huh. So, fairly sure gay protagonist immediately with this app existing. It has the naming scheme of dating app, but it has a very specific tone and vibe. Distinct difference between sprite art style and CG art style. I imagine different artists, but in this particular case, I'm curious if the sprite artist drew the right part and the background is drawn by the CG artist separately. It looks like it's a bit of a different overall vibe. Also, how the fuck to paint? How do people paint? Digital painting is so hard. Eyes travel over the door for a brief second, making sure it's locked, before I let my unoccupied hand sneak down to adjust myself through my briefs. Hello, everybody! Okay, that is funny. Is that just the staff of the game, actually? I don't know. Particularly the chest with the pierced nipples, I think, is the way that the author of the game self-represents on the itch.io page. Itch.io page, I never know what to call it. I don't remember if everyone else also was or not. It's a lot of no profiles. That guy has a treasure map on his ass. What an underwear style. Perfect squares with perfect men. It's never been a boost for my self-esteem, but the voyeur in me has always loved these kinds of apps. There's a bit of worry at the back of my head, wondering if anyone I know also uses the app. But after looking at a few handsome faces and heedless torso shots, I push it aside. I think that's kind of inevitable, as you're going to find out really fast if anyone you know uses the app, because it's a location-based gay app. Actually, it's a particular thing to break down about gay culture that's really interesting. I don't personally use any kind of dating apps, because strangers scare me, just in general. But hanging out with a lot of furries at conventions and talking with people about just anything in general, there's a lot of openness about sexuality and about even like just active proclivities and everything, and I wonder if some of that is informed to some extent by the idea of just showing up at locations and having location-based matchmaking of sorts, of just like picking up on everyone nearby in this way, and how it is kind of like I wouldn't say oversharing, but it is like a kind of a no secrets context to be pushed into by these kinds of apps. Like, the openness is like part of the deal if you want to be able to be connected and be able to meet people and so on. You're kind of like inherently broadcasting, which is wild. That is a wild place to be in with queer culture in general, because of the extent to which, like, it was so dangerous for so long to be out at all, and still can be in many parts of the world, including the United States in many states, and might get worse this decade, unfortunately, in upsetting ways. But there's such a queer history of cruising and so on, like these open secret locations where people would show up anonymously to hook up with other gay dudes and so on. You had the infamous bathhouses. You had certain locations in each city that were like, they'd be noteworthy enough that law enforcement probably knew they existed and was mostly ignoring them, but it was a place where people would meet up anonymously, and that was obviously dangerous for a number of reasons. The fact that you were going places and not telling anyone because it was for your own protection, because you were likely closeted and had to do this. If you wanted any kind of human connection and touch and belonging, you would take these risky behaviors and have to be secretive about it. Like, and it was less safe for a number of reasons. There's disease problems also, but just the literal unsafeness of being like, I'm gonna anonymously show up in, like, I don't know, Central Park or something and meet a random stranger in the darkness and hope that doesn't go bad. Echo goes directly into that narrative itself, because Chase was finding out that he was gay during an era where during a period of history where this kind of stuff wasn't around and wasn't normal, and in an environment where he wasn't necessarily going to be accepted for being who he was. Most of Echo isn't that much about homophobia. It's established early on by those random people that drive by and insult Leo and Chase, but most of it's not really about that directly. But the way that it's indirectly about that is the way that, like, Chase was trying to figure out how to meet anonymous older men in order to figure himself out and understand what he was going through, because he was afraid to talk to anyone around him or talk to his family, or really didn't know who to make contact with or how to survive and who to be and how to be. And the non-explicit but definitely, I think, intended threat of that is that Brian exists in that setting and was a serial killer that preys upon exactly people like Chase. Like, the entire category of people that he repeatedly went after were people like Chase, and it was highlighting this, like, kind of like way that, like, marginalization and being forced to operate in the shadows is dangerous for people and puts people in bad situations, and it's a form of indirect harm that isn't thought about or talked about often, especially by the people who have the most power to cause it in the first place. But you mean, like, you know, like straight legislators and so on that are, and the overall tide of bigotry that leads to these kinds of social trends. So it is like, it is wild. Like, as much as it's easy to dismiss as like the meat market or whatever the fuck, it is really kind of fascinating to have such open and brazen gay apps that are location based and everything, and just reveal your face and then that's it. Like, you're not just open, you're like broadcasting. There is still segmentation here. There's a lot of people that you would be in trouble for. A lot of the people that would be on here. Sorry. If there's people that you're afraid of finding out, or that people that you like would treat you worse for it, they're probably not on the app because it'd be a bit of a self-report. Admittedly, there's a lot of anonymous profiles mixed in there, which is itself slightly weird. But yeah, like, there's one of the best signs of how things have changed is just how open people are, and just how it's not a big deal. Like, if this is what you want, if this kind of app experience is what you want, people just do it and form community that way, sometimes in a way, and that's a huge shift, and it's meaningful. Anyway, we're tangent heavy today. Plus, I haven't been home in almost 3 years. I'm sure anyone who knew me would either be married with kids at this age or just surprised to see me back in town. My claws need to be trimmed. I mumble while scrolling through the local meat. The local meat. Having gotten late, I navigate through to the viewers section. Nothing new, surprisingly, but then again, my phone was in airplane mode till just before I passed out. My fingers dip beneath the hem of my briefs, sending a shiver down my spine as I tickle myself accidentally. As I click back to the main menu, I go on and slip my hand fully into my underwear, reaching down to cup my nuts and give them a firm squeeze. I just lay there like that, gentle pressure on my balls as I begin to examine each little square a bit more closely. As a squirrel, I feel like I should be more intimidated by the toothy smiles and mock snarls on some of these faces, but a wolf's a wolf, right? That said, there are some pretty good-looking wolves who aren't that far away. I'm much less interested in other prey like me, but I can still appreciate a chiseled body, or... There is this deer, and his smile is nice. Gorgeous. That black fur framing his lips. It's defining. Prey. Prey as a category coming up is fascinating. Is that going to come up? And we're definitely censoring this by now. Hello. At this point, he's just fully poking out. I might not even be showing this part in the video for all I know. I might have just skipped this part. My hand shifts from my nuts up to the hard-on as I adjust and finally let the tip of my cock pop free from my boxer briefs. Is that one word or two words? While settling, I've navigated to his profile and have clicked on his picture so I can zoom in and just admire. I tap out of his picture and scroll down so I can read his profile. It's abrupt and pretty off-putting. No fats, no femmes. Yeah, that is pretty off-putting. Their profile name is Head Tonight, with just an eggplant emoji. No fats, no femmes, just want real beef, can play either role, no fake sense, no telling anyone. No fake sense, no telling anyone. Are fake sense an ongoing thing? Maybe. I wonder if they mean just any level of like deodorant or other stuff, or if it's like a specific furry thing with like that kind of vibe. Mile away. Of course it starts off that way. I growl under my breath, tail doing its best to do that annoyed squirrel shake under the comforter. If I wanted to get back in the closet, I certainly wouldn't do it for this guy. As sexy as he is, the text has certainly dampened the mood. My softened cock agrees completely. Hey, hang in there, buddy. I coo down at my own crotch. To help keep things moving, I back out of the buck's profile before, mumbling about how it's too bad because he does have a nice rack. We have more people mixed in here. Hey! Okay, those are some cameos. That's Red and Saber, the creators of Glory Hounds. Red's in the top middle and Saber's in the bottom middle. Less sure of other people. I think I recognize the board, but I'm not completely sure. Now I'm wondering if the other ones were VN creator cameos also that I didn't immediately clock. The one that was like, it was like a black wolf with a red streak across the face was very obviously definitely a fursona, because it's not quite a design you would put necessarily in a visual novel as like a starting point. It's like, there's definitely a gap. There's a vibe difference between people's self-designed, self-expression, like Sparkle Dog personas versus like the characters you usually make when you're filling out a roster of characters that are fictional and not self-expression directly, and like there's like, you're less likely to be that distinct. My eyes flick along the rows of selfies, vacation shots, half-naked bodies. I'm almost bored as I slowly tug my dick and click into the profiles of a few other men. A few handsome coyotes, a boyish field mouse who I only click on because I can't believe for a moment that he's my age. A thick tiger who is all muscle and has a penchant for fucking in sports gear. A football kit he has on looks great. It's not until I scroll down, refreshing the listings, that I notice a pretty modest full-body shot. Hello. It comes out as a whisper, and I give pause to the affection I'm showing myself. There's a gentle knock at the door, and I quickly glance to the top of my screen to see it's almost 8. It doesn't feel like an hour has passed, but then again, as I look down and notice the feathering of Pri across my stomach, reality sets in. Damn. You got sucked into the gay void. I'm awake. I choke while stuffing myself back into my undies. Of course you are. I don't expect your brothers know how to make coffee. Comes the amused voice from the other side of the door. Your coffee is so cold now. I just wanted to let you know that I'm about to take the twins to school. There's some buckwheat pancakes and bacon holding in the oven if you want them. Thanks, Ma. My body shifts and rolls to the side as I prop up my elbow and grab my now lukewarm cup of coffee to slug it. You're quite welcome, Corey. There's a pause. It's good to have you home. We love you. I have no idea how I missed her approach. The floorboards in the hallway gives a deep creak as she wanders back to the stairs. You were not on high alert. You've been living alone for a while. Well, you've been living with another guy for a while. It's like, you were so nervous and cautious of any incoming noises when you're used to living with people that you're worried about being discovered by. But like, you've been living for years, like probably with your partner, and then before that throughout college, or who knows, well I don't know how college went, but like being a decade out of living at home, it's like so easy to sneak up on now. I have no idea how I'm blah blah blah. My ears perk and swivel, and I breathe through my nose as I finish up my mug of coffee. I hear her bark after a few. Evan, Caleb, hurry up, you're going to be late for school. In unison, she gets her reply. Coming! Feet are stomping down the hall. God, was I this loud when I was their age? I'll have to ask Ma. Damn. That was a full sequence. Then there's a quick rhythmic stamping as they race down the stairs. The door opens and slams. And then, just a nice golden silence. I'm not horny anymore, so I set the phone on the nightstand, get on up, and head over to my duffel. Now that I'm free from the warmth of the bed, I can really tell how chilly it is. I shuffle around clothes, find what I'm looking for, and toss a pair of jeans and a baseball tee onto the bed. The last thing I pull free is a pair of yoga pants. I shimmy into them, then grab my DOP kit and head to the door. There's an audible click as I undo the lock, and even though I know I'm alone, I peek my head into the hallway first, glancing in either direction before I slip out and head to the bathroom. What the... Where do you live? This is wild looking. The lit candles. Is that a window in the back? But like boards put up to better add privacy to the bath that's directly in front of the window, I guess. Oh, there's a shower curtain in the back corner over there. So a separate shower and bath. Damn. It does look like an older house. I don't know, that's the vibe I get from like I guess like the wallpaper and the slats and everything. It reminds me of older house you see out east that are more like distinct and have more character than all these stucco nightmares we have on the West Coast that were all built in a similar era and rapidly and are very uniform. But maybe it's just like the relative exoticism of just visiting anything from a different era and place and being like, oh shit, houses could be different. I've been looking at the same types of California houses with just different layouts for 20 years. 30 years. I don't know why I de-aged myself. Over the door, once the door is closed, I hook my thumbs at my waistline and shuck pants and underwear in one quick go. I kick them aside and open the glass-doored cabinet to retrieve a towel. I'm not sure what I'll get up to today, but even though the clawfoot tub is calling my name, I don't really want to commit that much time in the bathroom. I draw the vinyl curtain on the recessed shower, then reach in to start the water. My hand adjusts the timer on the combo fan and heat lamp. If I'm here for longer than 15 minutes, I can't be guaranteed hot water. Maybe I should use some of my savings to get a new hot water heater for the house. Mom has mentioned the current one has been dying for at least a year now. After threading the towel through the rack on the wall next to the shower, I dip back into the sink. Hands resting against the edge of the porcelain basin as I inspect myself in the mirror. I lean forward to check for bags under my eyes. Iowa is only a 2-hour time difference from the bay, but even that is enough to mess up my sleep. The bay. Did I hear where we went? I don't remember. They said only American Airlines, but I think they meant American Airlines, the airline, and not airlines from America as a distinction, like as a distinction from otherwise. Let's see, we're doing the expression through the eyes, through the hair effect, where you see the eye and the eyebrow. It takes a bit of getting used to. I would almost want like to not have it colored in, so it's easier to tell which part's behind the hair. Which bay did we go to though? Because my gut reaction is San Francisco, but I was like, would houses look like that? There are much older houses in San Francisco than anywhere else in California, probably, given the history. But like, could have been, there's parts of Canada, other parts of East Coast, I don't know. Iowa's only a 2-hour time difference from the Bay. We went to Iowa, didn't we? From the Bay. That's what they mean. That makes more sense. Satisfied to take a long look at myself. For a squirrel, I have a decent build, not overly bulky, just chipped away to the right proportions. I turn, reflection following suit, obviously, and flex. A buck-toothed grin emerges as I watch muscle take more visible shape under my downy white fur. That giant bristled tail of mine shakes approvingly as my eyes take in that rounded ass. If there's anything I made sure to take away from my personal trainer, it was proper form on squats. You have a very specific goal. My nose itches. I rub it. Oh, sweet fuck. I look at my hand with disgust, then come to the realization that the smell is me. It's somewhere between vinegar and, well, not good. I laugh, making a note to wash my balls, then dip over to the shower. Steam is billowing out the 6 free inches at the top, so I can make sure to check the temperature before getting in. Hot, not scalding. As I step in, my body relaxes and I lean against the wooden wall. Having so much fur means I feel heavy when I get this soaked, but it's good. A sobering affirmation to what's real. Unconsciously, I grab my shampoo from the shower caddy. I blink a few times, water running down my muzzle. Wait, it's in my DOP kit. The bottle in my hands is the right brand, though. Of course Ma would make sure what I need is in the house. It's almost like I haven't left. Having albinism means I have sensitive skin. I know the stuff isn't cheap, so I'll have to pay her back. Lord knows she won't want to take the money, so I'll sneak into her purse or something. Using my thumb claw, I open up the plastic lid. I squeeze a decent amount of the clear gel into my left hand, then place the bottle back in the caddy. With my fur this wet, I won't need to keep the water running, at least not while I lather up. I was curious about that. I was wondering, because he's got white fur, and I was wondering if they meant something by that. But I didn't think it was going to be albinism because his eyes are blue. I don't know if that's always consistent or not. The red eyes, I don't really know. I did know someone with albinism in high school, and they had the pinkish skin, the white hair, eye problems in general, like red eyes, but also just like struggling to just see in general and so on. Making sure not to adjust the temperature, I press on the faucet, pausing the flow of water for now. Though it costs an arm and a leg, this shampoo has always been amazing. You don't really need much to get clean, even when you're as hairy as I am. My hands make quick work of it, bringing the shampoo to a nice foam before I begin to work it into my wet fur. I'm sure that being crammed into a full flight with heaters running full blast along with sleep under a cold weather down comforter is why I stink. So first priority is obviously those trouble spots. I tuck my hands under my arms briefly, leaving a bit of soap before rubbing at my crotch under my balls. I reach back under my tail, which looks ridiculous soaking wet, and run my mitt along the cleft of my rump. What does the tail look like? What does a wet squirrel tail look like? With the soap more or less distributed, I get to cleaning in earnest. My ears perk as I hear a little chirp. 5 minutes till the heat lamp is off. I build a lather through my tail, fingers doing their best to run through the fur of the unruly appendage. God, you can be annoying. I mumble as it flicks in agitation. almost like a kid that doesn't want to be cleaned. By this point, I'm chilly from the lack of hot water. I pull on the faucet, letting out an audible grunt as the hot water flows over my form. I shut my eyes, head dipping and chin meeting my chest as the suds roll down my body. It only takes a minute or so to rinse fully. After shutting off the water, I draw back the shower curtain and reach for my towel. I dry as best as I can, but having such thick fur means that a hairdryer is necessary to finish the job. The heat lamp clicks off as I go about this task. Only after getting my tail to just damp do I accept that I'm not going to hurry the process along. I leave the soaked towel in the back of the tub. Water pools away and runs slowly toward the drain. I retrieve my yoga pants and crack the door. Ma? My ears go pert as I listen for a reply. Good, she's still out. So I strut on back to my room, tail flicking behind me. There's a moment of rifling through my duffel again as I pull out a new pair of briefs and thick pair of socks. I hum to myself as I get dressed. No song in particular, just humming. After pulling on my shirt to retrieve my phone from the nightstand, press the home button again, press the home button once to give it life, and grin as I stare at the screen. There's a message. It simply reads, "Hey." I unlock the phone and Rougher populates the screen again. Oh man, I forgot about you. The profile that caught my interest is once more highlighted. I'll be back. I say that with my best Australian accent. Back button, menu, messages. Wait. It was him. He wrote. Is this the X? No. 2,600 feet away, so no. Steven, about me. I like cooking, reading, mostly fiction, and using my hands to create. Spend too much time alone and I'm working to change that. That's a good goofy picture that would have not been planned, I guess. I click into his profile from the chat log and tap his picture. He's a Wolverine, from what I can see in the picture. That stereotype for being a glutton just may be true. He looks like a giant. When something interests me, I have this habit of taking in every detail, like down to minutiae. In this photo, he wears an apologetic grin. Combined with his hazel eyes, he almost looks sad. His eyes are raised. His hands are raised. He's shooing away whoever's taken the photo. They're huge. I tap his photo, then press pinched fingers to the screen and drag them apart to zoom in. This is when I take in all of the tiny details. The deep V of his shirt, those leather patches on the elbows of his tweed blazer, like it makes him seem like a teacher or a writer. How the fabric of his clothes bunches under his pecs and around his crotch. I mean, I'm looking at the style of stitching, the metals used for the grommets and buckles. It's ridiculous. I finally stop myself, zoom back out, and scroll up to take in his handsome face once again. My thumb pauses over the back button, but I want to read his profile before I respond. He's local, only a half-mile away. Fuck, he is huge. 6 foot, 6 inches, and 300 pounds. I scroll, ears flicking back slightly as I read, widowed. I can't help but wonder if the person who took the photo was his deceased partner. There's no mention of age, and the body of his profile is simple enough. Like cooking, reading, mostly fiction, and using my hands to create. Spend too much time alone and working to change that. I click the back button once again, returning to the chat. There's butterflies in my stomach and I really don't know how to answer, so I choose the most inane way to progress the conversation. Howdy, I quickly type back before pressing send. I flop on the bed again, rolling onto my side and reaching back to tug my tail free so it can continue to dry. How are you? I follow up, a brief moment later. I thumb the power button on the side of the phone, then stretch, body giving a little quiver as I yawn. My phone buzzes, startling me, and I drop it to the floor. Well, that was quick. I roll to my stomach and reach down to grab it. Draped half off the bed, I thumb the home button again, quickly reading his reply. Good. First frost last night. You in town visiting? Something like that, I type in return. Grew up in the area and back for an indefinite period of time. Send. I nudge back from the edge of the bed and stare at the screen. Welcome back. And a moment later, I'm Steven. It's a pleasure. I'm Corey. My thumbs type out quickly in response. For me too, comes a second later. A stupid grin finds its way to my face, and when the next message pops up, I laugh. So, what kinds of things do you put in jars? It's been a while since I updated my profile. I'd forgotten that I put that in there. Beach glass, corks, agates, string, things like that. There's a longer pause before his next message. That sounds nice. A very organized way to keep collections. I'm something of an amateur chef, so was wondering if you meant canning or jams or jellies. I reach back and drag a hand through the fur of my tail, more or less dry, so I roll onto my back and carry on with the conversation. I can hold my own in the kitchen, though I won't boast of my abilities. After clicking send, I remember the bacon and pancakes waiting downstairs. I don't want to get out of bed, but the edge of hunger is setting in. With a grunt, I sit up and sling my legs off the bed. My phone is slipped into the pocket of my jeans, and I head downstairs. There we go. We're about an hour in, minus whatever I cut. But, it's about when to cut it, usually. Sorry. Waking up still a little bit. But this is off to an interesting little start. If you want to check out where this goes, you can check out the full game via the link in the description if you are of the age 18 or older. Definitely setting up to be a return home and check out local romance options kind of set up. It'll be interesting to see how their relationship goes from there, because I believe... I forgot the scroll wheel can do that. Got a unique interface here. Yeah, that definitely appears to be them, so it's probably who they end up with. That house is huge. But anyway, you can check out the game via the link in the description. You can check out all of my previous Let's Tries via the playlist in the description. That's going to be it for now. A promising start. It takes a little while to get to where we got, as a comment, partly because of my own rambling, but also like maybe a little too much minutia about the logistics of being on a plane and then getting getting ready for the day when we could be getting a hook in there. But it definitely gets there. Now I'm curious about where things go with them, and I like the it's actually one of the only times I've ever seen any kind of like Grindr type app depicted in one of these games, I think, which is a bit of a surprise actually, with how much that kind of comes up. I wonder if there's like parts of like, sometimes people are a little ashamed of it when it comes down to actually like sitting down to write, and also sometimes there's like a level of like this idea that apps are like not romantic enough or something, I wonder. But it's like the logistics of how people are actually meeting nowadays, and it's not really that different from any other social happenstance. So it's, if anything, it's like a nice way of cutting through the pretense and just being like, okay, well, at least intent is on the board, so you can at least agree on that, as opposed to all the other random ways you can meet people. But I'm prone to rambling further, so I'm gonna take a little break and see you guys next time. As far as why I will say I thought it was especially funny that he's a squirrel, not for any reason outside of that, but just because we did literally just play the game squirreled away from start to finish last night, right before I did this, and then today I recorded like a vlog type thing where I also played squirreled away again as like some sort of like kind of like a stimulation thing to just kind of like give me something to distract myself so I'm not staring at like camera and being anxious about talking and so on. So I've been spending a lot of time with squirrels in the last 24 hours, so it's extremely funny that the visual novel that I had queued up on my desktop that I forgot what I had planned was also the squirrel one. Life's like that sometimes.